Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Minish and welcome to another episode of Into Indie. This time we're checking out Dust, an Elysian tale. Developed by just one guy, Dust is a 2D action platforming game. The first thing you'll probably notice is a beautifully hand-painted world. But is this game more than just looks? Does it play well? Is it fun? Let's find out. The story of Dust surprised me in a very positive way. I was expecting something extremely generic and boring, but it honestly isn't. However, I'm not saying this is the pinnacle of innovation either. So you start off the game playing as Dust, an oversized cat, dog, who knows what hybrid furry thing with a way too large hat and a case of amnesia, which is probably the most common affliction to video game characters ever. That being said, it's of course an easy way to begin your story. Your character doesn't know anything about himself and he sets off to find his true identity, which is also the case here. Now as soon as you set off on your quest you find a talking blade called Ara, and also you'll meet Fidget, the guardian of the blade, who is some kind of flying bat-squirrel mix, which is also again a furry, so yeah. Now these two characters, Fidget and Ara, are actually what makes this game's story so good. They accompany you throughout the game, and especially Fidget can be really entertaining at times. She has her own believable personality and she can be really funny as well. Ara on the other hand is the calm, concentrated, wise master who's telling Dust where he should go next. He's kind of your guide. That being said, the combination of these three characters really adds an extra dimension to the game. They enhance a storyline that's otherwise not bad but not exceptional either. It does however have its moments, like when you set out to save a guy but once you return he's already dead. And it's quite sad. So again, the storyline isn't all that amazing, but it's the characters that make it really interesting. But how about the gameplay? Is that any good? Gameplay wise, Dust plays a lot like a hack and slash. You've got your basic two attacks, the light and the heavy one, which you can combine into combos, but there's also a special attack that you can do. For a limited amount of time you can spin your sword around really fast. Now this does do some damage, but it's not the point that you use it like this. What you really have to do is to combine this spinning attack with spells. Dust can't use these spells, but Fidget can, and when she does, it's not really all that powerful, but combine that with your spinning sword technique and you've got yourself a hell of a super attack. Now there's several different magic spells that you can unlock during the course of the game, and each of them has a different effect on the enemies when you combine it with your sword spinning technique. Now overall there aren't that many combos you can do, and some people have said that the combat system is a bit too simple. Honestly, I don't think it matters all that much, because the combat is so incredibly fluid. You're constantly flying across the screen with magic everywhere, explosions happening, loads of enemies, it just feels epic. I honestly haven't felt the need for more combos, even though there aren't that many. Now next to the combat there's also a bit of an RPG system in place, which does feel a bit lackluster. You know, it's the compulsory RPG element. You can't release a game anymore without any RPG things in it. So all in all it's a case of kill enough monsters, get enough experience, level up, you get a stat point, you can use it to increase your health or damage, and then you continue. Rinse and repeat. There's also a crafting element, with a blacksmith being able to make items you have found as blueprints. All he needs is the materials, and these materials can either be bought or they can be dropped by enemies. Speaking of enemies, there's a whole bunch of different enemies available, so you don't get the feeling that you're constantly fighting the same guys over and over again, and there's also new enemies getting introduced all the time. However, one downside is that these enemies may be a bit too easy at times. I started the game on normal difficulty and I could basically wipe out entire screens filled with enemies without getting hit once, and it wasn't really hard to do that. So if you would buy this game, be sure to select a difficulty level which is higher than normal, otherwise it's not really a challenge and it can get a bit boring. Feature-wise, the thing that really pops out is of course the graphical style. It looks amazing. Everything is hand-drawn, hand-painted, and there's loads of different environments as well. Lots of variation in this game. Now in the previous part, the gameplay part, I mentioned that the combat feels really fluid. And that's not just because of the responsive controls, but also because of the animation quality. Honestly, there's nothing to complain about when it comes to the graphics of this game. Now, on the sound side of things, the voice actors, like I mentioned before, are pretty good. Mostly for the main characters. There are a few minor characters where the voice acting is a bit off, but on the other hand, every bit of dialogue is voiced. Obviously, there's also music in the game, which is overall quite catchy, and there's a whole bunch of different themes, which are again all of good quality. Dust only features a single player campaign, but it should keep you busy for an hour or 12 or something like that, depending on how many side quests you're gonna do. For the completionists among you, you can add another 3 or 4 hours to reach the 100% complete mark. The final feature are the controls. You can play with your keyboard or your controller, and I have to say both work equally good. And so we've arrived at a verdict for this game. Here's a small side note. Before this video, I never rated games. I just said what I liked and didn't like. I didn't give them an actual score. But from now on, I will give them a score out of 5. If you want some more explanation on what each score means, you can just check the description down below. I listed it there. That being said, I give this game a 4 out of 5. The combat in Dust feels really fluid, your character is very responsive, and you've also got amazing animation quality. All the graphics are also hand drawn and hand painted, which looks very good to say the least. Every bit of dialogue in the game is voiced, and the voice actors for the main characters really know what they're doing, especially the one who does Fidget. On the other hand, at times the story does feel a bit generic, and although it really wasn't a problem for me, I can see that some people would have issues with the limited amount of attacks you can do. And lastly, there's also the RPG system that's just there to fill up some holes. If it wasn't there, I honestly wouldn't even miss it. So all in all, Dust and Elysian Tale is a pretty good game, but it does have a few faults here and there. If this is your kind of game, you're certain to get your money's worth out of it. Oh, and before I forget, here's a bit of friendly advice. Don't search for this game on Google Images with safe search turned off. Just a hint, every character, every NPC in this game is a furry. So yeah, stay away. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to check out my channel for more.